So I was always told I was too sensitive. I was too sensitive. I was too emotional. As a child, I would come home from school and shut myself in my room because I was so overwhelmed by school, and I just knew children intuitively know what they need, and I would shut myself in my room. I would get told I was unsociable. I would get told I was rude. I would get told I was too sensitive. To be honest, I probably needed to be homeschooled because school was really messed me up. But we get told these things, right? So for a long time in my life, what I've always had, and I know for a lot of you watching, you will also be feeling this, I've always felt, even as a child, that there was more to life. I always felt like, and I didn't live in a very nice area as a child, I always felt like there is more to life. There is more out there. I felt like Belle from Beauty and the Beast when she runs up the field in France and says there must be more to this provincial life. That was how I felt as a child. I literally used to run up my garden and say there must be more to life than this. So I knew I wanted to get out of there. I knew I had to get out of that place, and I knew there was more waiting for me. So that has always driven me forward. And when I built my career and I moved up the corporate career ladder in financial services, which ultimately I then left. So I had the perfect career on paper, the perfect life, the perfect marriage, the perfect cottage in the countryside. And all of that fell away, all of that crumbled away to the life that I have now. And I've had to build that back up again. But on paper, it looked like everything was perfect. But actually, daily, I was trying to fix my sensitivities. So every time I did something that triggered my sensitivities, that I got overwhelmed from it, I was on this constant quest for what's the next therapy that I can do? What's the next thing I can do? I haven't fixed it. I was working in London in my corporate job, and I was going to London several times a week, and I was getting really overwhelmed, and most of the time then not being able to have a weekend because I was so burnt out. I just have to not leave the house all weekend, and each time this would happen, I'd go in this cycle of wow, still can't work in London without getting burnt out. Must be something wrong with me. Must be something I need to fix. Okay, and I would go round and round in these loops throughout. I think it's thundering here. Throughout my 20s and early 30s, I went round and round in these loops. How can I fix this? I'm too sensitive. There must be something wrong with me. Again, how I talk about this stuff being perpetuated by mainstream society, right? I went to the doctors. Yeah, we think you have an anxiety disorder. Just take these tablets and go away, basically. And because I got to a point, I even thought, right, do you know what? I've tried all these things. I've tried all these different therapies. Maybe I'll just now do what everyone else does and I'll just go to the doctors. And I remember being sat in the car park with this prescription in my hand, and I looked at it, and something in me came over me in that moment. And it was my soul spoke, and it was just no. And I looked down at this prescription for anti-anxiety medication, and I was no, not doing it. Ripped up the prescription there and then, threw it in the bin, never went back to the doctors. And what I soon came to realise, and it started with this thought and this voice that came in that was this is not right. This is not right. I don't have something wrong with me. My whole life, I've had these sensitivities. And this is what that voice came through from my soul, which was, they are here for a reason.